So, hello, welcome to the
Hello.
podcast. I think we were thinking about doing a video thing, but um that we can do with My Hero Academia, but we haven't had a podcast with Kalani in a while, so
Yes.
maybe we could do a little check-in.
I'm still
Uh,
too busy playing with Animal Crossing.
yeah, how are you doing on your island?
I will show you. So I tore down a thing.
Did you really?
Yeah, I decided to redo something. So it's like completely done over.
Mm-hmm.
And I recently moved my museum. So my
Mm-hmm.
museum is slightly different. I like how every single time I do a podcast with you, I just end up talking about Animal Crossing all over again.
Yeah, so I'm actually planning to do something with Animal Crossing.
What is that something?
We could do like an Animal Crossing centric thing where we visit islands.
I'm 100% okay with that. I'm completely down for that.
I think it would be really funny if we get like a third person like Vincent.
Yeah, Vincent. Yes, I don't know if you can see this. Oh, you definitely cannot see
You
that.
definitely cannot. No.
Hold the phone. Hold on.
I'm holding. Okay, I'm waiting and seeing.
Where is?
Your screenshot.
I need to find. Hold on. I need to turn off my virtual background. That's what I need to do. But anyway, so I made like a new thing recently.
Oh, you did?
But I'm just gonna go through all of my backgrounds. Oh, there it is. Okay. Anyway, we're back to normal. Okay, so I made a courtyard for my.
Oh,
museum.
okay. Oh, that's way more work than I've done so far.
I don't know if you can see this map on the corner, but all of the places around it are just empty. I haven't done anything with it, but like in the beginning portions of it, it's like.
You should do a screenshot and then I could put I could input it onto the screen.
Yes, I will try to. I will try to when I have time.
You know what I do that's easily done? It's just like I can't believe there's rant about Nintendo. I can't believe when you're sharing, you only have options just for social media. You can't just email yourself.
I know.
You can't just Google image like, hey, please send this to my Google. I would rather do that versus bombarding my Facebook feed with Animal Crossing stuff every time I want to share.
I was thinking about starting like an Animal Crossing Twitter. That might mean that I have to start dealing with Animal Crossing drama, and I'm not down for that, so I'm not doing that. So we'll see.
Wait, Animal Crossing drama?
Oh my god, yeah. Let me fucking tell you this. So, wait, we're supposed to be talking about anime, but anyway, besides the point. This is a precursor to the anime, I guess.
Yeah.
But so recently there's been this guy that's been on YouTube, and he originally was in a different community, but he switched over to the Animal Crossing community.
Right.
And he like started hunting people who have star fragment trees, and star fragment trees are hacked. Like.
Oh yeah.
You can't get them unless you kind of like hack the game and you get it from somebody else or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But he made it like a mission to specifically hunt, because you know the new update has like dream addresses and whatnot, right?
Exactly, the dream addresses and
going
to other people's islands.
He made like a stream where he hunted down people with star fragment trees and reported them to Nintendo for them to get like their dream addresses removed. And then if you get reported 3 times, you lose all of your Nintendo online privileges.
What?
Or not if you get reported 3 times, but if you get reported and you get 3 strikes on your account, then you lose all your online privileges for any game.
So this guy, well, to be fair, there's like nothing else better to do apparently during the pandemic and lockdown. But his thing is just to ruin other people's time.
Yeah, but you know, like people have made like very valid arguments about how like, you know, like technically you shouldn't be hacking and stuff like that. But at the same time, it's like having those kind of trees doesn't really hurt anybody. It's just more of like a personal aesthetic type thing. So part of me is just kind of upset that that's happening for the people, just because it's like it's not hurting.
Yeah, I'm like thinking about it. Like the star fragment tree. Like, can you get? How much does a star fragment cost? It can't be that much bells, right?
Well, it's not even that. It's like, so people will like sell the trees, but they have to get it like in a hacked way.
Huh.
So it's not like you can plant a star fragment yourself and you get it. It's like
right.
you have to do certain things in order to get that item, and that requires you hacking the game a little bit.
Okay. I could kind of see that.
But I understand it's like there's like terms of service, you know, like you're technically not allowed to, but at the same time it's like it's not hurting anybody.
Yeah, in a weird way, it's like it's changing the code, right? I think I'm trying to remember. There was some guy, it's like Abdallah or something on YouTube that does.
I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, and like he was talking about like it changes the value of the game, or like the value of the code that says which item can be in which tree.
I guess so. I'm not really sure, but either way,
it's a lot of coding language. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Either way, that's happening, and I was just like, I don't understand why you're ruining it for a whole bunch of people. But sure, go ahead.
It just seems like somebody that doesn't have a lot of time on their hands, or that just wants to ruin. And then this person is like from a different video game.
Well, community? I think he originally played Pokemon. And then some stuff happened there, and then he hopped into Animal Crossing, and the whole Star Trees thing happened.
It's just, I don't know. It's just, I feel like why ruin fun for some people?
Yeah, I mean, like, it's not like having those trees does anything other than like, you know, adding a certain aesthetic to your island. And even then, like, most people try to tell other people, like, don't shake my star trees if they come over, and people still do it anyway. So it's just like a lose-lose situation.
I learned that the hard way with my family.
Oh no!
I didn't shake their star tree, but like I thought, oh, this would be funny.
Money tree.
Yeah. I don't know why people just keep money trees. I'm just like, okay, so you just
my money trees.
Wait, you keep your money trees?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I
guess not anymore because I got robbed.
Oh, what? Well, really?
Yeah, no, legit, I got robbed.
Oh, do you want to go into that? How did that happen?
Oh, okay. So, I do a lot of selling for extra items just to kind of like make my money back occasionally, but I don't sell for really high prices. I just kind of like if someone offers something and they feel comfortable with it, then I'll usually take it.
Right.
But there was one time because my inventory is basically full, so all my slots are gone. So I was thinking like, oh, I'll just like put all of the stuff that I really don't need on my plaza, not my plaza, but like around it.
Yeah, because you can't drop anything on the plaza, right?
Yeah. So I just thought like, but I have like a square, and it's like it has my plaza right in the middle, and it's like a main square. So I thought, okay, I'll just drop it on the pathway so people can come by and pick up things if they want it. And then I fenced off the areas around my island so that people wouldn't be able to go to certain places unless they climbed. But I didn't think people would do it, you know?
Yeah.
So my areas were fenced off, and then I just had the items. And then I put up like this, like I was like just saying something like, oh, if you're interested, just let me know, or like just hop into the queue. And then there was the third guy that came by. I felt like I got a really weird vibe from him, but specifically I didn't see him come past me at all, so it's just like kind of this is a little weird. And then later on, I realized that he jumped off my pier and swam around the fences onto my beach and just like stole stuff. Give me un momento.
Okay.
Pause. Sorry. Okay, we're back.
I'm tempted to leave that in.
No, do not. Just vacuuming. Anyway. Yeah. So essentially this guy hopped my pier and just like because since I don't have any inventory in my house, I had some wood out,
right,
and I had money trees, and so they stole all my softwood, shook a whole bunch of my trees, and took the money bells, took a couple stacks of hardwood. And then I'm pretty sure because I was chatting in there, I was like, I'm gonna close the island now. The guy climbed up behind where my Abel's was, went into the main plaza, and was like, thanks for all your wood and money trees. And then I tried to like force close my my switch before it saved, but
oh no.
Yeah.
That sucks.
But you know what? That led to a rabbit hole of a lot of interesting things to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I stopped playing for a week after that because I was just like, I'm too upset. I need to take a break. I'm not gonna do anything.
Right.
But a day later, I realized because he like rubbed it in my face in the chat, I still had his name and his island in my Switch because it was in the chat logs.
Yeah.
So I reported it to Nintendo, and then I reported it onto the 2 servers that I originally posted in. And then I was doing research on somewhere else. There's a Reddit called AC Scammers, and they have like stories of people who got scammed on Animal Crossing. And then like maybe like 3 or 4 weeks later, I read a story about this girl who dealt with a like pier jumper or a dock jumper, whatever, and it was the same guy that dock jumped on my island.
Oh, this guy's like has a racket or something.
Yeah. Apparently he had like a history of doing it, and then they were saying that originally he would come by to people's islands before the swimming update with like ladders and poles to try to bypass your island, and then once the pier jumping or like swimming update happened, he would jump off piers with swimming suits to steal from other people too.
Honestly, I would jump off of other people's piers just for fun because it just looks stupid. No, I just hope nobody's like thinking, oh, this guy's gonna steal my shit.
But yeah, so like stuff like that happened, and I was just like, why do you have to do that? That's why?
Yeah. While you were trying to gather your things, I actually just brought over my Switch real quick.
Nice.
I'm just gonna show you this real fast.
You need to get a capture card.
I do. Yeah. If they ever get another round of Corona bucks, I would consider
just purchasing one and doing it.
Okay. So let's see. I did
And that oop.
And so this is my my airport area situation. Oh, whoops! I'm going the. It's mirrored, so I'm like literally playing while I'm.
It's okay. It's super hard for me to do too.
So it's like I made some kind of like large avenue.
That's cute.
Leads straight into my.
You have a lot of space.
Yeah, I do have a lot of space. Actually, I feel like I need to fill up my space. Actually.
Yeah. Terraforming.
Yeah, I do. Let's see. What's that button command? Oh, it's this one. There you go. So that's how my island looks like.
I should have done that with my Switch here. I'll show you my map too. It looks really good though. What is your island called?
Oh, it's a Ruby thing. It's called Mantle.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, because I'm a nerd.
Here, you can see all of the stuff. It's like the center part of my island is mainly done.
Wait, let me see. Oh, you have that same dog.
Oh, Shep? Yeah, I love Shep.
Oh, your island looks really nice.
It's
just the back end. It's just the back end. It's
slowly getting there, but I recently tore down a night market that I had.
Oh yeah, you showed me your night market.
It's gone.
Oh no.
Completely gone. So I put my museum there instead, so all of my shops are just all together in
Did we
square.
capture that in our previous podcast? I think we didn't we?
I don't remember anymore.
I don't think so.
I don't remember. But either way, it's gone now. I also have leaf if you need bushes.
Oh, we haven't visited each other's island at all.
I know. We need to add each other on the Switch.
Yeah, I know.
When the time comes. You got
too busy with Overwatch. Oh, okay. So I don't know if we're gonna do anime. Maybe we could probably do it, but.
Are we doing Animal Crossing today? I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with that, but I'm also down to do to get some updates because it's almost been months since I've seen you. And
I'm 100% okay with that. We will use today as a catch-up day and the next time as a day to set up for the anime podcast.
If you're free tomorrow, I'm down to do it tomorrow, or maybe
we'll
after this.
See. I might be doing something tomorrow, so we'll see.
Okay, but
also I still have this.
Oh yeah. So we could open that now. I could always
Yeah.
yeah. So do you want me to show you what I got or you want to wait?
Show me too. You can explain it as we're going.
Okay, so just know that it's an art thing.
Okay. I figured.
So the one fan that we have for our anime podcast, and it's actually really kind of cute and enduring in that way, is actually my niece, and she took the time to create something for the both of us, and so she packed it in a way to look like a little loot box.
I'll do it like a show and tell.
Yeah.
As
So
we
this
do
is
it.
an unboxing. We're gonna do this live on the anime podcast.
You should get yours first.
I already opened mine.
Yeah, show it off.
Oh, you want me to show it off? I don't know if it's
Yeah.
a spoiler for you.
Oh, okay. I guess I'll open it first.
Do you want? Yeah.
Open it first, I guess. Yeah. So there's drawings on
Yeah.
the cover. There are little chick. Oh, to the left, chick stickers.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even do the thing that people do where they put their hands on and they this is the product.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's like the makeup tutorials.
Yeah. There's also a lot of stuff in here too. There's like she made it into different slots.
She totally separated it. I think she
Yeah.
was I think she was hoping that we were still producing the podcast
There's
in
also
the
a
same
stamp.
location. Yeah.
There's a stamp in here.
Mm-hmm.
There's a cute drawing in here. Yeah. What else? I think that's it. Oh, and there's rocks.
There's rocks, and then
I have not opened it at all. So, what is under here? There are a lot of different empty pages. Well, they're kind of like coloring book pages, so they're kind of in there.
mm-hmm.
There's also erasers, broken crayon, eraser, and more erasers in there. Okay. Open it, right? Need to find the page. Wrapped like super tight. I don't have scissors with me right now.
If she wrapped mine in layers of tape. That
I
just
just had
means
one.
it just means she likes you more than me.
No, no. So there is your prize awaits and a regular box.
Oh, I only had one box.
I have two. I don't know what it is though.
All right.
What is this? Oh, it's still wrapped.
Oh. Okay,
There-
she did do the GIF within the GIF within.
It's
the
a
other
Lisa
GIF.
Frank sticker.
Oop.
I want to rip it. I can't open it. Ugh. Ugh. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out what it is. Is it wrapped more?
Oh my god, maybe she did wrap it more.
I can't tell. There's a lot in here. Am I supposed to open it all the way? If I'm not, then I don't know what I'm gonna do.
I think you might need to open it all the way.
I don't even know if I can. It's like taped in.
Interesting.
Oh,
Very
yeah.
interesting.
Do I have
All right.
a knife? Can we say that on here?
Well, I'm not monetized yet, so.
Okay, then we're fine. We're fine. I'm getting.
An exact. You just have an X-Acto knife on hand?
When I used to do cosplays with
Oh,
my friend, I would
yeah.
have these to make it a little bit easier to cut certain things. So I just happen to have like two of them on hand with me.
Oh, speaking of cosplay, we could talk about how all the summer cons are not existed.
I know that's a little bit sad, honestly. Like
That's true.
I feel like a lot of people are just going to be missing out on events that were supposed to be
Mhm.
happening, and like I'm pretty sure a lot of people were just looking forward to these events happening in the first place. But
It's gonna be a weird next 6 months. You know.
yeah, it's a little tragic. But like, what can you do, right?
Yeah, I think I don't know if I mentioned this on the podcast at the very beginning, but I was like,
I don't know if I'm supposed to open it more.
I think so.
I don't know, but I'm just gonna keep unraveling it as you keep going.
Did you check the other box?
No, I'm checking one right now.
Oh, okay. Imagine
But
it's a tool to open the other one. It's some kind of ingenious key.
it looks like a spoon, I think.
Oh, okay.
But go on as you're explaining as I'm opening this on camera.
Yeah, so I was like thinking it was that like when the whole pandemic started, I was like, I'll give it a year until I wouldn't say things get back to normal, but like in a way that like events can start happening again.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I got really bummed out when that Achievement Hunter Live ticket went basically like they canceled the event in March. It's
Yeah,
like
it's a
at the
bit
very
sad.
beginning. And it was like my first ever like paid for myself concert thing, I believe.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I'll be going. I bought myself like a VIP ticket because it's pretty cheap. Because gotta be honest, not many people know Rooster Teeth.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm a big fan of theirs, and like I might as well. And
Right.
so and when they were like, we're gonna cancel because of concerns over coronavirus, and I was like, you know what, that makes sense.
It hurts, but I understand.
And then they were like, we're postponing it, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna make it right now. It's like I'm not gonna keep my ticket. I'm just gonna refund it. It's a wash. They postponed it to October. I'm like, I doubt it's gonna happen. So, oh, look at that.
My hands are getting a little bit dirty because of the markers, but they're My Hero Academia spoons.
Oh, okay. Well, so who do you got?
I have Uraraka on the right, on
Mm-hmm.
the left on the camera, and then the middle is Todoroki, and then the right is Deku.
So I'll show you what she made me. It's like a little, like a,
Oh, that's so
it's like a
cute.
little keychain.
That's so
I just
cute.
I just keep it in my room. Just kind of like, oh, this is nice.
Keychain. I also have an Aizawa keychain, a sleeping one.
Oh, in a sleeping bag. Oh, that's clever.
Like he's just sleeping. And I think that's it. It's really cute.
So
My
I'm
hands are
just
covered in
gonna
a little bit of the markers, but it's really cute.
just put
I liked it.
just put a clear coat on it to protect the color.
I'm gonna put it in the box so
Mm-hmm.
I can protect it. But thank you. I really like it. I think it's really cute.
I'll cut down this specific section and then send it over to my niece.
Yes, speed run through it. Also, I just realized that she closed it in 2 spoons. I should have realized that was what it was.
Oh, okay. It's like disposable spoons.
Yeah. She's
Okay.
like, it's like,
Oh,
with the handles cut off, I think.
she's quite resourceful.
I must say, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, which convention are you kind of more bummed that is like it doesn't exist?
I don't know because you know what, like, I used to go to Anime Expo a lot.
Right.
Like for a couple of years, I would go every summer, and then we would just go to have fun with friends.
Mm-hmm.
But for the past couple of years or so, that kind of slowed down because the one person I normally used to go with just kind of like fell out of wanting to go to anime conventions as frequently, so I didn't go as often.
Right.
Plus, Anime Expo from from how people describe it nowadays is considered as line con because the lines are always so long. But I, in my history, have always generally had a pretty good time at Anime Expo.
It's supposed to be like an international convention, right? Like it's like a place where like studios and companies come to like show trailers, make announcements. Was there like a virtual version that ever came out? I don't think there was.
I think they had a virtual Anime Expo a couple weeks ago, or a couple months ago, I believe. Yeah. But I know, like, I've seen like big events happen before.
Sorry, quick pause.
All the interruptions for this show.
So we were talking about like, you know, virtual conventions and like everything kind of like moving into like a space where it's you can more than likely social distance. Oh god damn.
All the calls. Should we take a quick break and reconvene, or?
No, it's fine. I think my dad just redialed me on accident.
Oh, but Dallas,
Yeah.
gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so so there was like a virtual convention for anime.
Anime Expo specifically, I think had one not too long ago, if I remember correctly.
I know Comic-Con did theirs, and then I think E3 is now dead, which E3.
I'm pretty sure there are a couple of places that are going to be having conventions online, because I've heard of a couple of conventions pop up in my mentions every once in a while. So, yeah.
There was this what?
Butidayo.
I don't know.
What happened?
I gotta be honest. It's probably 10 o'clock. He just got off whatever he's doing, and then I think his phone's probably a little dirty. I gotta be honest. I think that's probably the case, because if you put water on your iPhone or get condensation on it if you're going on a hike, it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Anyways, technology and parents.
Did I ever tell you the time that I got pushed into a pool and my phone died?
No.
So a couple years back, I had had an old iPhone, like I want to say it was maybe the 5 or the 6.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to a pool party. This phone was already well on its way to dying.
Mm-hmm.
It was doing the thing where it was so old that it overheated every once in a while if you used it for too long and stuff. So I already knew it was going. Right. So I went to the party with no intention of going swimming, and maybe I shouldn't have done this, but apparently there was a guy and he was going around pushing people into the pool.
Uh-huh.
And I just wanted to sit on the pool side, just put my feet in, and just kind of just relax. Right. And so the guy pushed me in, but he didn't realize that I was holding my phone in front of me, using it while I was sitting in the pool. So he pushed both me and the phone in. And I only had one change of clothes. So after I got pushed in, I was just in the water, and I come out, and then everyone's around the pool, and they're like, we got your phone, oh my god, we're so and then everyone had picked up the phone before they even I got out of the water. Oh no. I was just swimming back up, and everyone was already oh my god, we have your phone, we need to put it in a bowl of rice. And I was just I'm glad that my phone is being taken care of. So yeah.
Was this back in high school?
This was back in high school, yeah. This was around the time where I started going out a little bit more.
Oh, well, at least you got out more.
Yeah, but didn't want to go into a pool after going out.
Yeah, that's true. So. It's you weren't prepared. You weren't doing that, Yeah, that sucks.
Made it more clear. I did not want to be in the water, but...
Why? What? It's terrible to say. It's just young kids not knowing boundaries or something.
He was older than me. He was oh man, I don't even know how old he was, but it was I probably would have been around 17. Was I in college at this time? I want to say that this was around either 17 to 19, somewhere within that age.
Right.
And this guy, that group of people that I was in had people who were slightly older than me, so they could have been early to mid 20s, I would say. So I think he was slightly older.
Yeah, mid 20s, right? Yay, 24 to 26.
Yeah.
I was it was funny. One of my students mentioned something about TikTok or something. I was just what is that? And then they were like, oh yeah, that's right, he's old. I was thanks for reminding me. Thanks for reminding me I'm old.
I feel like TikToks are becoming much more relevant nowadays in comparison to before, mm-hmm. especially with all the stuff going around about the fact that TikTok potentially may be closing.
Maybe
Or
I had a funny. I thought it was funny. I don't know about you, but I thought, would it be a funny thing to do if, because it's a Chinese-owned company, to just get a collective of people to make comments against China? Because like what's stopping creators from doing that, right? So like just
yeah,
bring up the Uyghurs, bring up all the stuff about Hong Kong, bring up stuff about Tibet, bring up
no, but
stuff
I
about all
mean,
of these things.
I think the reason why TikTok is under so much scrutiny nowadays is because
Yeah.
it is being utilized as a tool to educate people who are in the younger generation of Gen Z?
Gen Z.
Gen Z.
Is it?
I do genuinely think that like people are using TikTok to educate themselves because they do have videos where it is a trend where it's like you started off talking about a different topic
Mm-hmm.
and then you start talking about like the more significant, more important things. And then
Yeah.
there were a lot of different like movements that have utilized TikTok to help
Mm-hmm.
like promote and spread their message. Like I know when coronavirus was at like the height of, well, it's not like COVID has ended in any sort of way whatsoever,
That's putting it
but
lightly.
with the amount of stuff that's been happening with COVID recently, I've just,
Right.
my head is just hurting. Anyway,
Yeah.
um, at the beginning of COVID, that's probably the
Mhm.
better way to put it. When BLM became much more of a big movement, or it became under, it got put under a bigger spotlight, I guess, in comparison to other times before.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people had changed their profile pictures on there to the fist up in the air for solidarity. A lot of people use the platform as a way to promote stories about like George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, like all of the other people who were, you know, wrongfully treated by the police. And then, you know, I think, but social media apps such as that, like, I think it helps a lot of our younger generation to be able to learn more about the world in a very, I guess, ironic kind of way.
Yeah, and it's weird. It's like it's almost like an evolution of Vine, right? Back when that used to be a big deal. Remember that?
Yeah, I actually really liked Vine, but I think when Vine was out, I don't. It could have been, and it could have just been that the content that I had been consuming at the time just didn't match up as much as like the content that I watch now. But I felt like the eras in which these two big media platforms came up or got their notoriety have been in vastly different times.
Yeah, and I feel like not every, but there a lot of social media that's like mainstream always have some kind of pull or force that like it was the zeitgeist of its time. I think Facebook and Instagram was like a big deal, or that brought the whole Arab Spring stuff up to
Yeah.
the forefront. Kind of like these Middle Eastern, North African areas where they were calling for democracy in that time, and I think now it's interesting. I don't know. Yes, data security, but at the same time, like I don't know, like Tencent already is here. Like that company's here. WeChat's already here. Unless you want to get rid of all of those, then I don't know, maybe, but still, well, your data is also going to be on Facebook, and God knows we're using Zoom right now. Where is
Yeah.
this Zoom data is going to? And there's so many people that just click away on the terms of service without necessarily reading it, and I'm not. Maybe I'm nihilistic on this whole data security thing, but it's just know that do what you want that makes you happy, but also understand that whatever you post online is there. Like you can't necessarily get rid of it.
Yeah. I was
Yeah.
thinking too, because I was having, or after I heard the news of what potentially was happening with TikTok,
Right.
I was thinking about kind of like the whole issue about data security becoming a big focal point for TikTok and why people are denouncing it as a platform that should be used in America. And I was thinking, like, as much as, you know, TikTok is owned by a Chinese company, I'm pretty sure they have like a corporate base over here in the US for it to be in a Western company to help mobilize it in the US or something like that, right?
Yeah, I think their base is through Musically, and I think Musically was an American company,
I think
or it could have
Musically
been.
became TikTok. I think
Yeah.
that's what happened.
Oh,
But
okay.
either way, I think like otherwise they would have had an office somewhere around here, you know? And as much as you can argue, you know, that there are like worries about data security when it comes to TikTok, like I think that kind of negates the fact that almost every single thing you do online, like you mentioned before, you have a risk of losing your data information and whatnot anyways. Because, you
Yeah.
know, like there were data hacks for like, oh gosh, what other companies were there? Like there have been big hacks all over with like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure there was one that I've heard about not too long ago. But anyways, it's like,
Well, well, there was that Cambridge Analytica thing with Facebook about how data was used,
mhm,
and it got me. Apparently, on Facebook, you could basically download a huge cache of your data through basically your Facebook log, and it
mhm,
just said, and it just basically there's all the pictures you sent, all the videos you sent.
yeah,
I did check because there was some conversations that I just kind of deleted because I was like, yeah, I don't really want to go back to this conversation. You know what I mean?
yeah, mhm,
So I double checked. So this individual, it didn't have data from my end of deleted conversation, but for him or whoever it is, sorry, I don't think anybody really watches this, but anyway, but for them, that could be a different story because they
yeah,
log all my conversations on their end. So
mhm,
it still exists. I feel even though you delete something as an individual, there's a chance that it exists somewhere else
yeah,
on some other data island and I'm not trying to make it sound like a conspiracy theory Alex Jones situation, but this is kind of the truth, like
yeah.
there is just there's
There
there's
are
some
traces.
there's traces, and that's something that people need to understand, and I feel like it should be educated. It's like at this point I feel like the internet is so ubiquitous that it should be at least taught in at least a high school course or a middle school course of just to at least understand how to use it, what are the issues of it, and like I don't know.
I was
That's
thinking
just
about
how I
it.
see it.
No, I agree. I was thinking about it too, and I was wondering because like I know because of my history with the internet
Mm-hmm.
and growing up in an era before and after the public or the popularity of the internet. I was wondering like how many people are out there that have like 100% trust in the internet. You know, like
Right.
they're do they have the notion like if I post this, I may have repercussions in the future if someone decides to look it up in the future. Like
Right.
I've heard those kind of like discussions when it comes to like younger kids who are posting on like social media websites and then like people will say something like, "Well, have you ever thought about how this may come to bite you back in the like in the future?"
Mm-hmm.
But I just wonder like is there any I'm pretty sure there is like but I wonder like if there are any people in the world that put 100% trust into the internet like they're you just kind of like not think about the having caution about using the internet.
Well, there's on a base level security, right? Your make sure your social security is not on it. Make sure your like things that can be compromised in those ways. Um, that's a base level thing.
Yeah.
What else could I think of? Like, I guess if people that gone through OnlyFans, maybe I don't know. Like,
It's a difficult.
It's a difficult thing because I like the conversation like that. I for whatever reason I go into this place where there's examples of people that did certain things for money, right?
Hmm.
Or something that they may regret, or something that's like was part of their life for a while but doesn't speak to them. You know,
Mm.
uh, and a lot of those examples are like adult films, and this is not an indictment of adult films or sex work. Is like, as long as you're safe, and we should try not to stigmatize that, because if we do, it's like I feel it can hurt people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like, does it have to control your path, like your future? I don't
Yeah.
know. And then edgy comments people make when they're kids. Oh my
Oh
god.
yeah.
Yeah, the stuff people say sometimes, without realizing like that's kind of messed up, and like as a kid you're not like very conscious of like things around you. Oh my god, sometimes
I
the
think
stuff.
call it culture nowadays is just
Mhm.
like you say something wrong, you get the repercussions tenfold compared to when you were younger. But
I think
I
even
think
in the past, like bringing up stuff in the past too, unless that's
nowadays I think it
do,
is
do you feel like that would ever change,
like
people bringing
bringing up
up?
things in your past.
Yeah, do you think that would change?
I don't think so.
Mm,
I mean, how do I explain this? I do think that over time people do change, because
right.
even me as a person, like there are things that when I was younger I would say, and then over time I realized how wrong it was, and then I learned why I shouldn't be saying certain things, and
Hmm.
then completely erased it from my vocabulary to never say it ever again. And now if I ever hear it, I'm just like, don't say that. That's not right. You
Yeah.
know? So but to any outsider, if I ever had posted something on the internet, I'm pretty sure I would have been called out immediately for it
Hmm.
if it came down to it. But I think the problem, I guess, seems more so that like even if you made a mistake like years ago and there's a record of it in the future, when it can basically come back to
Hmm.
you, you know? And at that point there's no way you can really get out of it. It's just more so a matter of kind of like sitting there and waiting. Like I'm pretty sure there are people that have said hurtful things in their past,
Right.
and then as they've gotten older and matured realized how wrong it was,
Hmm.
and that like that person from that they were before is no longer how they are now.
Hmm.
Like I get that. I think that's one thing in itself. But I do think there are some cases where there are people who who say something wrong in their past, but even over time they don't really change, or they don't realize why they need to change that behavior. And even when they get called out for their past actions they apologize, but it's not really just to like meaningfully do it. It's just more
Yeah.
so like a saving face, like, oh, you caught me, well, what
Yeah,
can I
I
do
feel like,
now?
there's no further learning or conversation. I think I was listening to apparently Andrew Yang has a podcast, and as somebody that
Yeah.
was part of the Yang gang, I was just like, yeah, Yang, Andrew Yang. Sorry, that's beside the point. But he did a show with Wanda Sykes, and it, and like they brought up something. It was like, bringing up people's past, and conversations about people, like, let's say in the comedian world, the comedian spectrum, trying to say very, very like on the edge comments and phrases and words. And like I think Wanda said this is like, I would rather have them say what's wrong with it versus I'm sorry, because if they say what's wrong with this comment, then it opens the door of saying like, okay, let me explain to you why is this an issue, why is that phrase an issue for me,
Mm-hmm.
versus the I'm sorry, it's like you're trying to hide guilt or something. That's through the eyes of her as a comedian. But I think the conversation went towards the conversation of like politicians, and like people's past, like Justin Trudeau's past, where he was in brown face, or the guy from Bon Appetit that basically was dressed up as a Puerto Rican. And then right now, Shia LaBeouf playing I don't know what's going on. I don't
Is
know
there
what
things
movie,
happening with Shia LaBeouf again?
but it's apparently it was like a Chicano blog about how apparently he was playing a cholo or something in a suit, or there was like one image where he was holding a gun. I was just like thinking, okay, I don't know a lot about this, and I need to get to another meeting. I'll read this later.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, blackface is very egregious, and brown and yellowface. I'm just like now realizing, oh shit, this is an issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I agree with what Wanda Sykes is saying. If that was how it was being portrayed in the interview, like
Mm-hmm.
I think
Definitely
it
link it.
goes.
I'll definitely link it in the description for
Yes.
people to take a look at. Sorry.
I'm gonna watch it too. But
Mhm.
anyways, I think it does go a long way to talk like have an open discussion. Like, hey, I realized that I said these things before, but I need you to realize what I realized in order to change my own behavior, which was that these things are wrong and this is why.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that enables a conversation with your I guess your audience to be
Mm-hmm.
able to understand that you have taken the time to do your research and understand why certain things shouldn't be done.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I think a lot of you know how like there's like a popularity of apology videos on YouTube nowadays, and I think
Mm-hmm.
I mean I'm not gonna say that 100% this is the reason, but I do have a feeling occasionally that when some of those things happen, it seems like it's more so to save face. And I think in the long run, if it were me at least, if I was watching a media personality or an internet personality or somebody or something, and they got called out for something, but they apologized for it, I wouldn't 100% just be like, okay, you're better now. It would
Right.
be like more okay, you apologized. Let's see how your content changes as you progress in your career. And then if they just kind of like go back to the same behavior, then from the evidence that's being portrayed, it seems like you're only apologizing the same face, versus
Yeah.
like people who do apologize but go through the process of changing their content in order to, I guess, like negate away from whatever they did before. Seems
Mm-hmm.
like more of a change. But then again, even if they were to do that, like there's no way a person who's an audience member could 100% tell if they're genuine or not. The only
Yeah.
person who would know would be them. So
Yeah. The creators themselves, and I feel when all of this stuff happened with Black Lives Matter, this current social movement right now, and like a lot of places are kind of grappling with it. There's positive examples, like as a fan of Rooster Teeth, like they're actually like really actively looking in them within themselves and seeing the content for what it is, and like trying to push for more oh wait, not exclusive, inclusively in bleh, inclusivity, in the content they make and like the people they hire,
mm-hmm.
and well, not just behind the camera but in front of the camera, you know and so like it took this pandemic and like this new like social movement to do that, but like at least it shows there's progress or like positive motion towards it,
Mm.
versus like HBO now, which is basically signaling to people that, oh, we're doing something by taking out a movie that nobody planned to watch. It was Gone with the Wind, which was it's a troubling movie. And if I were to do like a course on, or not a course, but like if I were to do a screening on Gone with the Wind, I would try to bring people that are like historians or like film people that understands content and media to talk about Gone with the Wind, and
Mm-hmm.
to have a discussion and a debate. But but I just feel like HBO was kind of virtue signaling
Mm-hmm.
almost. The same with Netflix that these do you know Always Sunny in Philadelphia?
I feel like I've heard of the name before, but I never really watched it.
There was episodes, granted, blackface is not great, but the characters themselves, the comedy of the episode was the audience is appalled by the blackface, but also laughing at the ridiculousness that the characters themselves don't understand that
Mm-hmm.
blackface is wrong. So, but Netflix decided to take out those episodes, and I think there was like some other Netflix exclusive that took out those episodes, which yes, but also at the same point, it's like if you really dig a little deeper into the comedy of it, it's like it's a critique on blackface.
Mm.
Yeah, I haven't seen the 30 Rock episode, but I've seen like the Lethal Weapon episodes from Always Sunny, and they they basically made fun of themselves in
Mm.
blackface. Yeah,
I guess. I feel
and
like those.
I'm not condoning blackface at all. I'm just saying the content of the comedy that
Mm-hmm.
was the content of those episodes was these characters not understanding why it's screwed up.
Mm.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like shows are a little bit different to deal with
Right.
because, on one hand, right, like, okay, let me ask a question. When was Sunny in Philadelphia or the other show that you're talking about made? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what year?
I think that Lethal Weapon episode was like a mid 2010 season, so like 2014 or 15.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I've thought about this a little bit, and obviously, like, while this is an opinion that I do have, I feel like in the future, if something came up, it could change.
Right.
But I feel like when you're discussing like TV, like shows or whatever, those kind of become very difficult topics to discuss because of the landscape of the time that they were created.
True.
Right? Because if you're talking about like Gone with the Wind was a movie that was made years ago.
Decades, 1940s old.
Exactly. Yeah. And you know, like in the in 2010, a decade ago, like the comedy that people liked and consumed, though in hindsight could be considered very wrong, was the comedy of that time.
Right.
So like I guess like for me at least, when I'm looking at these things, as much as I think it's wrong, like there's no like going around it, like the content is bad.
Right.
Of the context that it's put in, but there's just kind of some sort of rationale in my head, like, well, as much as I can acknowledge that this show and the comedy that or whatever content that they're putting out is in this time and era completely wrong, like at that time that was what was accepted.
Yeah.
So like it becomes a very difficult place to kind of like talk about these shows, because you know, like, I'm pretty sure there are shows out there that are kind of like renowned for being really good television shows, but are steeped in like stereotypes and racism and whatnot, you know? So what does that mean for the show, which has a whole bunch of acknowledgement as a good show?
Yeah, that's the thing. I feel you know Tom and Jerry?
The Cat and the Mouse?
Yeah, the Cat and the Mouse. Those shows were made way back in like the 40s and the 50s. There's some stereotypes. I'm like, what? There's like there was a maid. So if you saw Tom and Jerry, like the reruns, like in early 2000s, the maid was like some skinny old white lady, right? But if you saw the old version, it was a mammy caricature.
Ew.
And it was like a heavy set, talked in a certain way, like a southern style way, and I was just
That's
like,
a yikes.
that's a big yikes. But I think it's Warner Brothers at the time. I think they were releasing like a compilation of Tom and Jerry animations. But it opened up with a commentary from, I think, Whoopi Goldberg, talking about how although these were made, you know, at a time where it was socially acceptable to make these jokes. It doesn't reflect the time now, but at the same time, to erase it makes it feel that it didn't exist back then.
Right.
So what do you do as a person that's trying to conserve film or trying to conserve media? Do you erase it, or do you preserve it and use it as a learning tool for the next generation to say, oh, look, this happened, let's own up to it and let's be better people?
All right.
Yeah.
I very much agree with that. Like, I firmly believe that I think erasure is harmful because, like, for example, right? Oh gosh, do I want to use that example as an example? Oh, well, anyway.
How far do we want to take this?
This is getting a little bit scary. But anyway,
to be fair, I did had a conversation about California missions already with a teacher.
I saw that.
Yeah, and this is a person that honestly, I can't vote for this person, but I hope he does good in the polls, because I think, to be fair, I've only have talked to him, but I feel like he's a good fit, and he wants to change the way education is thought of, not just in on just what the relationship is with the teacher and the student, but it's the relationship between the teachers and the community. Yeah. Well, it's a slightly hopeful,
Power to
who knows?
The teachers.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah, bring more power to the teachers. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Anyway, sorry, we're going back. You said you were talking about the San Gabriel missions.
Okay, not the San Gabriel missions, but
no.
I think that erasure is harmful in the long run, like in the grand scheme of things, like past the time that I'm still alive. Like, I think erasing our country's history would be completely harmful to the future generations that are to come. Right. Specifically because, like, I guess we can use the presidents as an example, not Trump, but there's a lot of discussion about, like, George Washington and all of these figureheads who were presidents for the U.S.
Right,
who were slave owners at the time. And, obviously with how everything has been lately, that's become a very big focal point on, like, discussions about race and identity in the U.S. So I think that, like, when you're taught about all of these things in school, you're never really taught that they were slave owners 100%.
Yeah, you're taught the legends.
Exactly. You hear about
the myth,
the lore, their renown, but you don't hear about the bad things that they did when they were still alive. And granted, you can look at those experiences from a lens and acknowledge that some of the things that they did were bad, but that is our history. That's how we ended up where we are now, where we have, the Black Lives Matter movement and, feminism and whatever the heck is going on right now. Not to say that in a bad way. I'm just saying that there's a lot of things right now.
Yeah.
And also that 2020 is a time.
It's like we condensed the pandemic of 1919, potential World War, social unrest of the 60s and 70s.
There's just a lot happening right now.
And political disenfranchisement of the 70s. So yeah, it's like locking everything of those all together in 1 year. Yeah.
But needless to say, I think, another example, I guess. I watched this show a while back, and the host had a discussion about Confederate statues.
Oh yeah.
There are a whole bunch of people who argued that taking down these statues would be seen as a crime because it's, erasure of our history. But, people have argued that, we don't need these statues to commemorate people like that. You can put it into a museum where people can appropriately learn about these figureheads and stuff. Also, the fact that these statues were made in the late 1900s.
And like during the civil rights movement of the 60s.
which was a way to signify oppression of Black people, which is another problem.
I feel like there should be a collection of like put them all in a central area and just be like the museum of racism or something like that. And
I
also like a whole
mean,
Confederate statues all
maybe
there.
not that, but I do think putting like in my head, right? Like in
Mm-hmm.
an example, if you were to take like a good majority of these statues, like if you were in a certain state and you had these statues and you decided to take it down and put an exhibition up for it, you can put cards that explained the civil rights movement or the period that they were erected and the
Right.
reasons as to why they were erected, also history on the person themselves. But obviously, I'm pretty sure that museums also kind of highlight things in a certain way. So I don't know how that would work out. But, you know, there are like the museum in Little Tokyo that have done really good jobs at preserving Japanese history. So
in Eastern European countries where like I feel like Soviet iconography that were like statues, buildings, plaques, any of those things, like I don't know what country this is, but like when someone went and visited that former Soviet Union country, they just had all the Soviet statues of Lenin and Stalin and everything just put into a park just somewhere else, just like not really taken cared for. It's just if you want to see it, it's there.
just like dilapidated and stuff.
Yeah, and it's really interesting, but there was also a thought. I think this channel's called Cheddar, but like they were talking about how they're like um there's this mountain in Georgia where it has like Confederate leaders on the side of this mountain, and I think it was commissioned, and the guy that made Mount Rushmore was actually doing it until he was kicked off of the team or something. Anyway, so at the end of the video, it's just trying to find a way of like how are we gonna, like, if we want to remove it, how do we remove it? But one of the ideas that struck me was the idea is just let's just nature take it back. Like leaves that would get into the notches of like the faces and like the horses and all of those things, like just have those trees grow and just leave it alone, and then have like maybe like a history or information center. Just as like this monument was erected and made to symbolize white supremacy. Now we've learned that this is probably not the right people to be celebrating, and now these statues are being taken back through nature. It's a better idea than loading a bunch of dynamite on a mountain.
Yeah.
And me being a person that's like pro natural spaces and like national parks, I'm like maybe not blow up a side of the mountain.
That's a little bit dangerous. That could be a lot of landslides, but yeah, no, I do think that, I don't know, it's a little hard to say, I guess, because
and that's true. This is a very surface surface level conversation. This is just two people having a little powwow about what they feel should be done. And honestly, for me, it's like this is a rebel group that were fighting other Americans. They just lost. So why do we have symbols of a losing team in the US? I don't know.
I mean, the US is steeped in history with wars between people in the US. So, there are a lot of people with differing ideologies.
And that's true.
So
and I feel like I'm going to have a lot of them now.
Well, anyway, I as much as like I still do kind of feel kind of like if I sit around and I think about it, I take the time to just think about the situation that's happening, right? Like part of me is still kind of like I genuinely do not know if erasing and 100% getting rid of something like that is the correct solution. to go forward. I firmly think that like erasing history completely and making it seem like the US was better necessarily is wrong, because
Mm-hmm.
we're not 100% a great country. That
Yeah.
sounds very un-American to be saying, but
It's, that's the thing. It's how do we want to remember, these individuals that founded this nation, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Samuel Adams, forgot what he did, but all of these people.
he made beer. I'm just kidding.
He made beer and he was a silversmith. Anyways, not a good one apparently.
Oh,
But like, how can we be measured in the conversation of this being taught in our textbooks? And like, granted, we live in LA, where tends to be more liberal, versus say Texas or I feel like I'm calling out people, versus southern states, or even to some degree even northern states. So, some of them even they don't even talk about project housing or redlining, in Pennsylvania, and like gerrymandering, to a point that like, these are things that really affect not just people of color, but people that do not have financial stability to get themselves out of these situations,
right.
and like, how can, like, there's two models that I always like to point out, and this is something that I tell to, I think, family members, and then to some degree some students, if they want to have a frank conversation of how I am feeling. But like, how should the US talk about its history? Does it want to be the German model, in a sense that Germany really did some really fucked up shit?
That's an understatement.
That is an understatement. That's probably the understatement of the 1900s.
Yeah.
But like, they did really fucked up shit.
Yeah.
But the way that you learned it in Germany is like, people learn it to a degree of like, hey, we're gonna show you some shit right now. We're gonna show you everything. Versus Japan, where, even today, like, even making an apology to the nations that they try to take over, like Korea's, yeah, that's true. The Koreas, like North and South, China, Southeast Asia, like, even trying to admit those things is a politicized issue. And within Japanese textbook, it's like, it's very, yeah, to some degree it is anti-war, but it really just talks about World War II in a very blase, not critical of what they did in the sense of how they exploited, places like the Philippines, China, Korea. Yeah.
I don't know. I think so. I have thought about becoming an educator before.
And me too. I
Right?
was like
Yeah.
I was like a history. I was like thinking, because I loved history. This is why I know so much. Okay, don't quote me on this. This is why I know a lot about. That's all I'll say.
I not like English more because books, but besides the point, I think like I have thought about becoming an educator before, but I do think that like if I had become an educator, or if I do in the future, I don't freaking know, but I think if I were to become a teacher, I think I would want to become like a high school teacher, specifically so I can go into discussion about certain things that I know that younger kids probably won't 100% comprehend yet. But I think being able to give a precursor about situations that happen surrounding like books you would be reading, or adding insight to those stories, would be a very interesting way to teach your students.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I just believe that like what's that one book that we always had to read? The one with all of the freaking barn animals.
Animal Farm.
Yeah, okay. I think giving context to the era when the author was writing those books would be very interesting to be learning. So I think, as this kind of ties in with everything that we've kind of been talking about, I think understanding the time period where certain things comes out helps to explain certain decisions that were made during that time, and also to explain maybe why or why not some of those decisions are no longer being made in the current time that we're living in.
Right.
So I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's all part of history. I feel like it's all part, like, like literature, um, the truth about like the civil rights movement, and it's not just, I think, Jim Crow, voting rights. It was all of that, but it's also this fight against, poverty in these communities of color,
Mm-hmm.
and the fight against, you know, people basically taking away rights. Like first it was Jim Crow, and then it was voting. Wait, no, wait, sorry. First it was the freedom of slavery, then it was voting, and then there was Jim Crow, and like it kept on going and going, and then it had to have this movement for it
Yeah.
to go. And then even though that happened, like now we have this modern issue of mass incarceration. And I just listened to this podcast about Joe Rogan had with the people that founded the Innocence Project, and I'm just like, like if somebody was to see me on the freeway to Silmar or San Fernando Valley because I was like, doing food for like food distribution, they would just see me like bawling my eyes out, just crying. I'm just like, oh my god, this story of like there was like this Guatemalan immigrant that moved through Guatemala into Mexico. He basically he won this competition, won this money. So he basically tried to flee Guatemala because there's like gang activity there, and like trying to get a better life. But when he got to the U.S., he just happened to be in Florida in a very disadvantaged community and got blamed for a crime he never did,
Mm-hmm.
and he was put on the death penalty for in Florida. And turns out it was somebody else that did the crime, but he spent 14 years of his life in an American prison,
I've heard a lot of those stories.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, what? I don't know. I guess I grew up thinking like, oh, justice system can't do wrong. They
Mm-hmm.
can't, like they're part of the community. But like, when you get up to a certain age and start to realize it's like, there is problems, but instead of just dwelling on it, it's like what can I do as a citizen to identify
Improve.
those,
Yeah.
improve, identify,
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I definitely think that providing more education on these topics would help to improve like our future generations down the line with knowledge.
Right.
But another thing that I wish we kind of had when it came
Mm-hmm.
to education is just perspective on time. Because
Yeah, that's true.
like even now, right? Like I think back to like figureheads that I've seen in history, and it feels like it's been so long ago, but it hasn't been that long. And then if you think about it even more, I found this out maybe not recently, but like a month ago. But Anne Frank and Martin Luther King were born in the exact same year.
Oh yeah, it is. And I think what Adolf Hitler did was born on the same year.
I don't
No.
know either, but I know specifically those two were born on the exact same year. And like in my head, I know enough that I associate them with different time periods, but that's not the case. They're
Yeah.
very close in time with each other.
There was somebody that said this. It's like in 1776, right? It seems so ancient, but that was 4 people year old. Because if you consider people's life expectancy at its most as like 80 to 90 years old, that's just 4 people.
Hmm.
And we ended and quote unquote ended slavery in within 3 people of that time, maybe even 2.
Yeah. I don't know. Like it seems so strange to think that like a lot of these events that we hear in our history books were only like so long ago, you know?
Mm.
So I think having that perspective about time would help, I guess, make us acknowledge that we're not necessarily that far off from the things that we're reading in our history books.
Or I think like, yeah, and like the policies that got us here in the first place, or the same mentalities that we think that we've gone over,
Yeah,
but
I mean,
like, yeah, it's now still a thing that we have to deal with today.
exactly. And like, look how much has changed in a decade from like 2010 till now.
Mm-hmm.
There's been so much that's happened. Granted, a lot of it has been just in this year alone, but like,
Yeah.
but it's been a process.
Yeah.
It's like the Black Lives Matter movement didn't just happen this year. It's been happening gradually for the past 10 years and came to a head in 2020.
Yeah.
It's been a discussion since like 50 years ago. And have we improved it? Not really.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like we can't think of these events as being, centuries old, because they're not. They're within 100 years of us being alive.
Mm-hmm.
So understandably, there are people who are still alive who have those mentalities from back then as well.
Mm-hmm.
And, it could have just been that, with time passing, people just did not talk about it as much as they would, like they wouldn't talk about it openly. And, the US generally has this kind of rule where you don't talk about politics at dinner, So like, it just, you need it, the time perspective helps to kind of put things in our world view in perspective. And I think, like, even now as I'm talking about it, like, the realization that some people who were born or who were alive, I don't know, in the like around 1950 are still probably alive and kicking now.
Yeah.
They're like, there is some sort of realization in my head as well that, there are probably some people who had a certain mentality back in the 1950s who still have that mentality now, So I still think, okay, bottom line, I think there's a lot we have to do in order to make the world a lot better. And I don't necessarily want to go 100% into politics, because I don't normally talk about politics in general.
Mm-hmm.
So there is some degree of like like I'm just like, oh, I shouldn't be talking about this. But like, with everything that has been happening, there's so much wrong that's been happening, and so much trauma that has been caused, and for someone to not acknowledge that it's happening or to contribute to this inequality that is very obviously here in the US, it just seems wrong.
It's crazy. It's like, why does it have to, like, it's like, why is there a cycle to all of this? Why can't we just do something that will benefit everybody? That 51 percent policy, like, to actually identify the issues and do something about it. And I feel like there's this acknowledgement that, oh, this is bad, thing goes back to normal, and then in the next couple of years something else happens, and it's just, I don't know, it's just weird. I don't know how to contextualize it. It's not that I don't want it to happen again.
I just think people are,
and I think that sorry, I was gonna say, I was like, there is something good about what's happening now with this current movement, that it's going, it's now moving, it's changing people's minds on certain aspects of, the role of police, and like how much police gets funded, and relations between not just white people and black people, but like, interracial kind of like relationships. Like, what does how can the Asian American community provide assistance for other people, and how can the Latinx community in LA, that's completely different from the Latinx community in like Arizona, like how can we bridge those gaps and serve other people? And it's just, like I think that's the most positive thing right now that this current movement is that it's moving and it's always in the forefront of a conversation, and it's
Mhm.
not, and it doesn't, there's like, I feel like even though it's not in the news at the moment right now, but there's like a very like a constant hum that people are now realizing this needs to stop,
Yeah.
like this killing of, and I mentioned this before, it's like if we believe in a system where like you're you're proven innocent until guilty, right? Is that what that phrase was?
Innocent until proven guilty. Yeah.
You're innocent until proven guilty, right?
Hmm.
Why is that in the case of George Floyd or in the case of Breonna Taylor? Like, they did not have their time in court. The
Yeah.
people that killed them were their judge, jury, and executioner.
Hmm.
Like, where is that justice there?
Yeah.
And with examples of Trayvon Martin, the Eric Gardners, the I forgot who was
There's just so many names.
there's just so many names. I'm just sorry. I'm just venting right now. I'm just
No, I understand.
yeah.
I had this thought sitting in my head for a while, but a couple
That's
months
true. That's true. It's the pandemic. Yeah. Sorry.
yeah,
Sorry.
but a couple months ago, I saw a post and it was about George Floyd's daughter
Mm-hmm.
and saying like her dad was a hero or something like that, and I kind of had to sit and think about it because I was like, you can say that his death mobilized the entire country to do something, you
Mm-hmm.
know, but this small girl shouldn't have had to lose her father in the first place for some change to happen.
Yeah.
And it's sad that she doesn't even get to grow up with him. He doesn't get to see her live and become a grown woman,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know, it just
No, I was gonna say no amount of Disney stock is gonna change that fact.
yeah.
No amount of well wishes, no amount of how much the community can give. That's gonna bring her dad back. And granted, very like it comes from a place, from a good place, but for her, it's just
Yeah,
sorry. Yeah,
it just it just sucks to have to lose your father in that way, and for us as a country to be too late to have done something to prevent it.
I know.
You
And
know.
it's just I feel so sad. It's like because the innocent are proven guilty, we believe in that idea, and with these conversations of like I mentioned before, it's like what gives this Derek Chauvin the right to be his judge, jury, and executioner, and on the same token, for people to go into his past and like say, oh well, he was a criminal already,
Mm.
or he had a history of, I don't know, mental illness, or all of these things that could be like a touchstone to say, oh, he deserved it. He didn't deserve it. Like, this is another American being killed under suspicion,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that, like, why does his past need to be a thing that we need to consider?
Right.
Then, and they've done this with that doctor that got ripped out of that United flight. Remember when that happened?
Mm-hmm.
It's just
I think back to that event too, and part of me also just can't like give up the fact that there was an Asian police officer who kind of did nothing as well.
oh yeah.
I can't really ignore the fact that he was also there.
I think that's why my initial invite was very Asian centric, because I feel like I was grappling with that.
Mm-hmm.
When I saw that Tao, like the officer Tao, like what he did, that just stood there when that happened. As an Asian American, I'm like, fuck, am I complicit in this too? Am I being quiet?
Mm-hmm.
Like, am I allowing this to happen?
Mm-hmm.
and I think when we had our first conversation on it, I think we did brought up this notion that like how can the Asian American community be silent
Yeah.
when this examples of like this happen. And I did bring up a point of like, you know, how much as an immigrant community we value that. We
Mm-hmm.
value police coming over, or we value that minority myth that, you know, if we just stay quiet, then, you know, and docile and not shake the boat or anything like that, then it's everything will be okay.
Actually, I can tell you a discussion about. So I have a interesting tidbit to add,
Okay.
but I'm not gonna name who this person is.
Mm-hmm.
Not like I won't give any details, just what happened. So I know a person,
Mm-hmm.
and recently they had a discussion with a friend that was in their friend group, and one of the friends started coming down with a cold.
Mm.
Like they did something in the morning, and the guy like offhandedly was like, "Oh, I'm feeling a little bit sick," and then everybody in that group had heard it, including this person. And you know, it was during the pandemic, so everyone was like, "Oh, okay."
Mm-hmm.
And that person was slated to go over on a trip and sit in a van with a couple of people, but he, like, the guy wasn't planning to tell anybody that he was feeling ill.
Right.
And the person that I knew was talking to someone who was supposed to be going on that trip, and had mentioned, oh, you know, that person was saying that they were feeling a little bit sick. And the friend that my friend was talking to said, you need to tell everybody like that he said that he was feeling a little bit sick, you know, because that's kind of a big problem. He's feeling ill and he's putting all these people into the same car as him.
Yeah.
But that my friend had felt like it probably would have been better not to say anything because she wasn't involved.
Mm-hmm.
But the friend that person was talking to decided to tell, who was supposed to go on the trip anyways, told everybody in the group, like, hey, like, he's feeling a little bit sick. We'll figure something else out. Which kind of ties in with the whole kind of like, you don't like the silence. Like in that situation, I told my friend, I said, you know, if it were me in that situation and they had told me like, oh, I'm feeling a little bit ill, I would have immediately have been like, then stay the fuck home. Mm-hmm. Don't go. Are you dumb? But it's just, you know, like stuff like that is in this day and age very bad.
Yeah.
But it that kind of brings back to the whole like the notion that, you know, Asian American communities stay silent. Because even for that person, the reason why they were saying like, oh, I feel like it's better that I don't say anything because I don't want to cause problems.
Yeah.
And I think that's generally the reason why people in the Asian American community don't say anything at all, which is they don't want to cause problems.
Yeah. I wonder how much of that is a generational thing. Like first generation immigrants are also, blanket statement, this is not everybody, but like a lot of first generation immigrants feel that way because, you know, they don't want to risk immigration or and things like that. But if you talk to established East Asian immigrants or East, like, you know, generational families that live in the U.S. for generations, like they're more willing to fight for it. But, you know, you do have examples here and there of like immigrants that come in here recently that, you know, sees a problem and, you know, believes in the American system that says, if there's a problem, speak out, you know, like, you know, there has to be some justice. If you see something wrong in your community, it doesn't matter if you're an American or not. It shouldn't matter that you want justice.
Yeah.
You know.
Also, I want to go ahead and say before that story gets blown out of the
Proportion?
water.
Yeah.
that person ended up staying home and not going.
Okay.
So it all worked out in the end.
So it has a positive ending.
Yeah, so nothing ended up happening very badly.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I've had thoughts or like trains of thought about this discussion before. And I was thinking, like, I wonder how much of this unwillingness to be open about certain things comes from just like our like the Asian American culture or Asian culture of just like you don't talk back to your elders type thing, you know? Which I guess in hindsight that doesn't really make any sense because it's not like really you're talking to your elders, but it's more like an authority figure, I guess, in a way. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just think that like I don't know. Asian American culture is very interesting and weird.
We both have to grapple with it.
Yeah. I don't know. I do see a lot of the wrong as well as the right in Asian American communities. I think, you know, as a lot of Asian Americans are getting older, or like at least like our generation is getting older, a lot has been done to improve discussions about, you know, race and inequality within our generation, but there are still, you know, instances of racism that come up, you know, with like blackface and whatnot. And you've seen examples of this come up a lot in, you know, other countries, which, you know, I feel like it could be just not fully understanding the implications of that in certain countries.
Or like they don't have the canon or the history of it.
Yeah, because if
No.
you're an Asian American, you grew up, you know, during like or grew up here, you know, like you learn about all of the things that happened in the past. But I don't think other countries have that exact like of course they don't have that exact same history, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I understand that they may not be educated in that sort of same fashion, but at the same time I can like everything else that we've talked about today, I can acknowledge that that behavior is wrong. And you know, and I think it's good that people are getting called out on their bullshit, you know.
Yeah.
So it being called out on your bullshit has I think for the most part led to change.
Yeah.
But I think there's still a lot to be done about like appropriating culture because that's such a fine line to be walking, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. And like those cases of like food, you know, like who gets to represent food or things like music or dance or even martial arts. And I think some people make that argument that like, oh, if it's taekwondo, like it has to be practiced through a Korean person. But like, what if this person traveled or done all of these things to gain this enlightenment through, you know, this sort of combat sport? Would you say that they get not, I wouldn't say a right, but you know, they get a chance to share in this cultural exchange?
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's a lot of discussion to be made about a cultural appropriation versus cultural appreciation, and I think like
I think where I draw the line, I think there's two places where I draw the line. In the case of fashion and in the case of dance, like if it has a religious purpose, off the table.
mm-hmm.
If like these if it's like a Vietnamese dress, and if you find out that that dress is only reserved for wedding occasions, off the table.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's something like food and there's examples of, I think it was San Antonio, where chefs in San Antonio wanted to celebrate other providers, other people that cooked the food, brought the food to the table, and all of those things. They had a restaurant where they cooked the food. They made this cultural exchange of like, you know, we could do all of these crazy things, but at the same time, there's like a section on the wall that says, if you like this food, go to this place in like Little Saigon in San Antonio. Go to
Mhm.
this place in oh wait, no, it was Houston. It was Houston, not San Antonio. Go to this place where in New Orleans where they're doing these crazy things with these foods, and it's about that language of you know these people, um like Rick Bayless that always talks about Mexican cooking.
Mhm.
It's like cool that you do this, but also please like take it back to where you got it from. Like
Yeah.
explain the knowledge of it. And it took me a long time to kind of recognize that.
Mhm.
I for the longest time I didn't like Andrew Zimmern
Oh.
because it was just kind of like after a while I started thinking like, is this just a white guy just trying to eat weird food in different countries? And I think that was part of the reason why he made Bizarre Foods America, is to just talk about, well, my conversation is not to go out and just say, oh, look at this weird food in this Asian country,
Mhm.
but like I think the tone shifted, and they wanted to talk about weird food can be found here in America, and it comes from somewhere. There's a history of it, and
Mhm.
once they changed that tone, I was just like, okay, I kind of see where this is going.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also in the case of that chef I was talking about, Rick Bayless, how can he open the doors for other people to come in, and for media companies to be like, listen, just because he can speak English doesn't necessarily means he's the best chef to put on a pedestal. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Uh,
So I'm hoping that there is a more positive change and a more positive shift, when it
mhm.
comes to this conversation of cultural appropriation, because a lot of things kind of went through cultural appropriation. You wouldn't have Istanbul if you didn't had cultural appropriation.
Mhm.
You wouldn't have historical centers in like France and all of these places if you didn't had that exchange of food and goods and culture.
Mhm.
So where does that fine line? Where do we draw lines in the sand when it comes to these things?
Well, I
And
feel
this
like
is where I see it. Sorry, this is where I see it. But some people may have a harder
yeah.
stance on it, and so that's for them to figure out and grapple with. Sorry.
No worries.
Yeah.
I'm chilling. No worries. But in my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
um I feel like in those instances, it might not necessarily be cultural appropriation, more so as it's cultural influences, because it
Mm-hmm.
seems more so that it's two different cultures intermingling because of whether it be geography or whatever, which I think is very different from cultural appropriation. I think,
Mm-hmm.
but I as like a like almost mid-20s person have always found it difficult to kind of grapple with the differences between cultural appropriation and cultural appreciation. Granted, I know the definitions of both, but I think like if I think about it right now, it seems like the main difference is intent,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I guess like the best example I can use is like there was a story that went out a couple like maybe a year or so ago about
Mm-hmm.
a girl who wore like an owl dye to prom,
Oh yeah, I heard this. Yeah.
right? Yeah. So I was thinking about that, and my initial reaction was that seems like kind of wrong. But at the same time, I was like, wait, no, it's not. It's not really that wrong, is it? Because, like, if you think about it, when you go to Vietnam or you go to Korea or you go to Japan, there are tourism places where you can go around and you wear like kimonos or hanboks or ao dais and whatever, you know. And so, like, does it count as cultural appropriation? I'm not sure, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because while you can on the surface level say that it is, like, none of us know what her intent was.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we don't know if she did her research to
Mm-hmm.
understand what the what an ao dai meant, like it's just hard to identify whether or not someone's doing it just to appropriate a culture or someone's doing it to appreciate a culture.
Yeah. Would
Uh,
Oh, sorry.
oh,
Would you? in the case of Korean pop, would you say that's cultural appropriation if they're using streetwear, hip hop, you
Like
know?
K-pop?
Yeah, like K-pop. If they're using example, would you say they're benefiting from African American culture?
See, I don't know. Part of it, like part of me is in like wanting to say yes
Mm-hmm.
because it's like, I have in the past seen K-pop idols wear dreads, and when it comes to like dreads and like box braids and whatnot, like there is historically like a lot of culture and history behind those hairstyles, and
Mm-hmm.
like even now, like we just had a thing that passed recently where like people are not going to be allowed to wear box braids in school.
Mm,
I
really?
think that just came out, right? I'm gonna fact check this. Box braids. Anyway, I think I heard a ruling recently, something about like one of the hairstyles is not going to be allowed in schools.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where, but like, when like whether it be Asians, like K-pop stars, like people in the US who aren't black wear those type of hairstyles, they don't really get the repercussions that black people do for wearing those hairstyles. And on
Mm-hmm.
top of that, box braids are technically used as a protective style for certain hair types, which have a
Mm-hmm.
lot of kinks in it. And, like a lot of people don't have those type of hairstyles, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And, there are a lot of, people who are on YouTube discussing how if you don't have those hairstyles, doing box braids can actually do more harm for your hair than doing good.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, I don't know. Like, I do think that there are some people that benefit from using that culture, but at the same time, I don't know intent. So I
Yeah.
can't definitively be like, this is definitively cultural appropriation. But, you know, even this is the bigger thing that I've thought about recently, like a lot more nowadays, there are a lot of people who are biracial, right? Like
Mm.
there are people who are happas and mixed. And so, what if you had a person whose culture like did not match with how they looked like how they identified just also isn't how stereotypically people of that culture look.
That's what I it's interesting because I have a niece that does is white passing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And like what's going to happen if if she wants to try to learn more about Cambodian culture,
Mm-hmm.
like do I deprive her of that? Like because she is to some degree half Cambodian,
Mm-hmm.
that's part of her heritage.
Mm-hmm.
And for her to be mixed, it's like, do I put her in a box where it's just marked white passing, you know?
Yeah.
Or honestly, I'm just the uncle. That's not me to decide, but I'm just thinking as if I was a parent.
Yeah.
What would my decision be?
Okay.
Like what can I do if those situations happen? If I have a can't speak today, mixed race child, you
Yeah.
know.
I mean, even then, I have a cousin, and he's half white and half Asian, so like, or half Chinese, so like, but he's also white passing. But
Mhm.
I don't know. I just like in certain situations, right? Like, okay, here, look, I'll give you an example.
Okay.
So there is a Korean artist. I don't remember her name, but her husband is a really famous rapper.
Mm-hmm.
And she's actually half white, half black. I'm not half white, half black, half Korean, half black. There you go. And she wore box braids for a music video, but got called out for cultural appropriation. So, like, does that count? Because she's half black, but she's also half Korean, but she also looks more Korean than she does black. So it's like, those situations just kind of get a little bit finicky when it comes to calling out certain people for certain things. I don't know.
Yeah.
Are you trying to look up who it is?
Yeah, I'm trying to. Okay, is it in Sunni?
Her name is, so her husband's name is Tiger JK.
Oh, okay. Oh no, this is an old Korean.
Yeah, so that's his name. Her name is Yoonmire,
Yumi.
I believe. This is her old.
Oh, you're gonna send it in the chat?
Yeah, I am.
Chat. All right.
Anyways, from what I remember, I think she's half.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I could tell. I could see how you can say Korean passing.
right.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, to be fair, she was born in America. But besides the point.
Oh, okay.
Besides the point. She is like half, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So in those kinds of situations, when you call out cultural appropriation, but that is their culture, like does that count? Like,
yeah.
I don't know. It becomes very difficult to identify, I guess. Which is, I guess, like when I think about this or have this discussion, it's always been the struggle that I've had. Like, there's, like, I've thought about this like a gajillion times. I have no idea how to like grapple with this discussion 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Have you seen the new movies Five the Bloods on Netflix? The new Spike Lee movie. There's a portion of that film where it did talk about there are these half black, half Vietnamese kids, and how they're seen. It wasn't the main focus of the film. The focus of the film is African American veterans, but it was a small piece of it. This is a mixed race, half black, half Vietnamese, and already in a country where blackness is seen as a negative. There's skin bleaching products and throughout Southeast Asia, and it's even though it was just a little bit, it was like, okay, well, this is an issue that's not just in the US, this is abroad also.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Also, I just realized this might be the longest podcast we have.
How long has it been?
I think we've been recording since 9:30.
Oh, Jesus Christ. We should probably we've been talking about a lot.
Well, here's the thing. We haven't seen each other in person since I've dropped off that thing for you.
But you know what? Like, I feel like whenever we pause from talking about anime and whatnot, I think we always just tend to talk a lot about various different things, which is not bad. I like talking about.
That's kind of part of why I wanted to do the podcast, because it's the thing of, I do know a lot of people, in a sense that I do know a lot of people through the network I know, through kind of the advocacy I've done. And I just like, you seem like a fascinating person. Let me get to know you in this way for about hours on end.
Is this more of the chill interviews in comparison to the other ones that you've had?
Yeah, because I know you. Because I know you. That's an unfair statement. I feel like I have to set up a lot before I before I talk to some folks, because it's just like, I just got to remember, like, oh, these are the topics we used to talk about a lot, but now they're in Colorado or in this situation, or now since we got laid off, I don't have day-to-day conversations with them, but like it's weird, but there's also it's also a fun weird, if that makes sense.
Makes sense.
And yeah, I just hope, I don't know where this is going, but I just love doing it.
You should just nickname this like the Ramblecast.
The Ramblecast.
Just occasionally Like, we don't have to talk about anime. We'll just ramble off about whatever the heck we're talking
I
about.
think maybe if we do that, I think we would have a special like once every 2 month podcast with just you and me, and it'll just
Just
be
ramble.
it'll be Bryan Gim podcast number 8. Wait, no, number 9, the Ramblecast.
The Ramblecast.
Well, and here's the deal: if you, as audience members, just saying, if you feel like you've just had an hour or 2 hour conversation about race in America and coronavirus, I got to be honest with you. What else have you been doing? We have been in a lockdown since March. We have nothing else but to deal with the fact that we've lived in a racist system for a while and we are stuck in our homes.
Also, I feel like both of us are probably somewhat nihilistic, so this doesn't help our case at all.
That's probably true.
Yeah. So it doesn't really help that we're in this situation right now at all,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah, but that being a joking way of saying it, like I do still want to continue that conversation.
Yeah.
It doesn't stop, like, and I mentioned this before, and I'm a broken record. You probably heard me say this a lot of times on the podcast, but the movement doesn't stop here, and it doesn't stop with my podcast.
Right.
It continues when we listen to other leaders. It continues when we try to actively have a community that represent our interests.
I think it helps to discuss certain things. Like
Yeah.
I genuinely do feel a lot better doing these podcasts with you, because it's like, on one hand, I'm able to talk about topics that we don't normally see as 100% okay. So I think being able to talk about some of these somewhat taboo discussions
Mm-hmm.
and putting it out into the world just kind of makes it like we're able to discuss these things, and then potentially if someone out there watches it,
I think that's why, to some degree, hey, I never planned it in that way, but like a lot of my guests in the beginning was very Asian centric.
Mm-hmm.
I've had Kenneth Tang, the Eric Sanada, and Isabella, and like all of these people, because I feel like there's not many Asian faces talking about these things.
Right.
There, you get the Geraldo Rivera, you get the Chris Hayes, you get all these people from, like, I just literally just named a Fox News guy and an MSNBC guy, but like you do have a lot of people that are not of the Asian background, talking about these things. And
Mm-hmm.
and even when Hassan Minaj, like, he's technically Asian. I think he's South Asian, right? From India, I think. I don't want to, but he's South Asian. So like but my parents just think, oh, he's just Middle Eastern. It's like, you just kind of made that assumption straight out. Like, you don't know him 100%.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know him 100%. But from what I've heard, it's like South Asian. So I'm just like, okay, I'm not gonna profile. Like, that's not my place to say shit at all.
Mm-hmm.
And it's true. It does make it a way as like it demystifies conversation like these. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a weird thing. One of my podcast guests, I'm not going to name who this person was, but they apparently said I was a much more better interviewer than an LA Times podcaster. And I was just like, what the okay, this is the negative part of being Asian, is like I can't take compliments. I'm just like, bullshit. Really? Nah, you lying.
Nah, you tripping, bro. No, but that's good though.
It's when I sat down and I actually listened to that. The podcast was called Asian Enough, through LA Times. And
should you have mentioned that? Will that tie it back to that person?
Well, this was not posted.
Oh. Okay.
It was not posted. This was a conversation after the podcast.
Oh.
Okay. But yeah, he mentioned I was better in questions
Mm-hmm.
And I listened to the podcast. I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to listen to some episodes. And it happened to be Lulu Wang, the director
Oh.
of The Farewell. And I just thought, okay, so what should I be listening to? So I just heard like the questionings and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, I could kind of see where he's getting at, because it's like, it's very surface level. I felt like a lot of the questions are questions that I've already heard before. And it's not deeper questions of like, you know, growing up, did you feel a certain way? What got you into this? Like, you know, there were questions about, you know, her and her relationship with the film industry. And that was fascinating, by the way, you know, how she had to fight tooth and nail for her story, not the Disney-fied story, to be front and center in her movie. And so I was like, I could kind of see where I get that, and just put into the relationship of like my podcast I did with them, and you know, the questions I would go for. And
I mean, I think this is more of like a self opinion, right? But like, if you're doing an interview, right? I think
Mhm.
I would consider interviews on the same level as like job interviews,
Mhm.
because it's like, if you're doing an interview, no matter what it is for, you would want to try to do as much research on the person that you're interviewing so you can get more engaging questions with them. And I feel like, not to say that 100% you did it, because I don't really know, but I think,
Mhm.
you know, if it's someone that you had picked out and that you identified with, which kind of means that you have some prior knowledge to who they are as a person, it
Right,
enables you to be able to access some questions that you know, some other interviewer who didn't do the research, not saying that the LA interviewer didn't do their research,
No,
but
it's good. It was a good podcast. I'm not saying anything bad about LA Times.
no,
By the
I'm
way,
just
LA
saying that,
Times.
like,
I'm just kidding.
I'm just saying that if anything, I think maybe the degree of like not privacy, like how personal this interview podcast thing is to you,
Mhm.
allowed you to be more personal with the questions that you were throwing out there versus someone like in the LA Times, where they probably had like a set structure on what they were supposed to ask.
And also, just to point out a lot of differences, I was talking about very serious subjects, and then on the level of Lulu Wong, it was right before the pandemic, and so a lot of her questions were just the films, her history.
Do I get to know who it is after the podcast?
Yeah, I'll tell you who it is. Yeah. Anyway, so for the longest podcast, the Ramblecast,
it just keeps going.
Just keeps going. The engine keeps moving. I'm the only one
going.
producing it. I'm the only one that can stop it.
Just keeps going.
Anyways, it does not. Hey, it has no brakes.
It never ends.
Anyway, so I hope you enjoyed. We've had a lot of very, very heavy discussions. You know, I hope that doesn't detract you from liking and subscribing. I should actually, you know, should have been a message at the very beginning of the podcast, but I totally forget. But you know, I hope you like and subscribe. You know, do all that beautiful stuff to stay safe, stay healthy.
Very important.
And we'll see you in the next one.
See you in the next one.
Bye.
Goodbye.